Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Marty here again, man. I know it's been a few days, but I needed time to just breathe. I mean, with all that's going on around the world, it's just, I mean, it's almost as if the pain and the suffering and the injustice and the brutality and the lies and everything is just breathtaking. It's suffocating me as a person. And no matter how much I try to speak on it, no matter how much I try to get my point across, no matter how much I try to get my view across, there's always somebody there to try to knock it down. So I've just kind of been on the lay low, you know, just chilling, really. But as you've seen, the news have covered it all across the nation. There have been riots, looting, protests, everything. People are breaking into different companies. People are stealing. I mean, the nation is just in an uproar. Again, I do not support looting. I do not support stealing. I do not support the rioting. I don't support those things, but to be honest, I understand. I understand that when your voice is not heard, when your peacefulness is not heard, when your silent actions is not heard, the only way to speak is to lash out in anger, is to respond in an uproar, in outrage. So I understand. I understand. I don't condone it, but I understand. But with all that's going on, I just wanted to shine a little light. If I could just shine a little light, that would be great. So today, what you're going to see is a video of different cops, the cops of Tik-Tok. And these are not all of them, but these are some of them that were sent to me. And I want you to just hear their view and hear their voice. Watch this.
I really don't feel like saying this, but I have to say it. And sometimes I just have to speak out and speak my mind. A lot of people have asked me what I do for a living, and I'm a police officer. In a recent amount of events involving excessive force in an individual, it has caused a catastrophic environment within the entire community. I joined the force to spread positivity, help the need, and protect those who can't protect themselves. That's the career I chose. Not all police officers are the same, and I do not stand behind those monsters. 2020 has been one of the craziest years in my lifetime. Please don't judge all police officers for those that can't do the right thing.
As a current law enforcement officer, I want to say that the video I watched yesterday of a young man being pinned to the ground by his neck by another police officer was not only wrong, it was egregious. Those 4 officers stood by and they did nothing. Those 4 officers who swore, put their hand on the Bible and said that they would protect and serve, did nothing to save a young man's life. Now I'm asking every one of my brothers and sisters who suit up, who put that badge on, who put their hand on the Bible to say, I will protect and serve, to speak out against that. You see, my grandmother told me one time that a bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. So while we're on TikTok and Instagram and any other outlet that we're using to try and bridge that gap, those 4 officers just set us back from everything that we've been trying to do. So today we got to work harder. And for the men and women who have to suffer because of that, I am so sorry. To George Floyd and his family, I am so sorry. To the 4 police officers, I hope you're charged accordingly.
So if you follow me, you may follow other law enforcement officers. And if you do, I'm sure you've seen their reactions to basically a murder that took place in Minnesota. And I agree with their sentiments 100%. We are pissed. This was senseless. We're not trained to put our knee in somebody's neck. His partners were there. They didn't do anything. They clearly could have, but that's a whole other thing. I hope he sees justice. You know, us as law enforcement officers, we do try hard to gain a good rapport with the public, and stuff like this just sets us back. And we have family and friends too. I couldn't imagine if that was my dad or my brother on the ground like that. This he's not even a cop. He somehow snuck in the back door of law enforcement, and it's tragic that it took something like this to smoke him out. And I'm just sorry to the family and the public. This is terrible.
So first off, I want to say to the Floyd family, I am truly sorry for your loss, and that should have never happened. And I hope justice prevails. And I hope those people are found to be guilty of murder, because that's what that was. Second, I want to say that we got to change this. We got to break these barriers and these walls, and we got to do what we can as police officers. So 5 years ago, I did a traffic stop where a young man thought I was going to hurt or kill his dad because of the color of his skin. And that broke my heart. And from that moment on, I decided to change the way I do policing. And I get out of my car every day. And I get to know the people that I protect and the people that I serve. I build relationships, I talk, and I commune with them. I let them see who I am underneath this vest and who I am underneath this badge, so the innocent people don't have to fear me anymore, because that's not what we signed up for. So I challenge the other law enforcement officers. Get out of your car and get to know the people you protect.
It's rare for me to speak out against another officer. There are very few situations that I can't articulate in my mind why that officer did what he did. But George Floyd, that officer was wrong. There's no excuse for it. There is no excuse for having your knee in a man's neck for 7-8 minutes after he is handcuffed, and then 2 or 3 of those minutes while he is unconscious. I could not care less if George Floyd was black, white, Hispanic, Asian, male, female, young, or old. That officer was wrong. And he stomped on everything that I have spent 12 years defending and standing for. And for that, I am pissed. I am pissed because that officer makes the good guys' job that much harder.
All right, guys. So here's my thoughts of Minneapolis as a police officer. I worked hard for this badge. I went through the training for this badge. I live for this badge. I die for this badge. However, I do not in any way, shape, form, or fashion agree with the way that officer handled that situation. That officer should have been arrested on the spot. He should have been taken to jail and should be prosecuted for the murder of George Floyd. That is against the law. What he committed was a murder. He should not be, I don't even want to call him an officer. He should not have gotten this badge in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And I worked too damn hard to keep this badge's name clean and good for people like him to ruin the badge that I work for. I hate it for all the officers out here that have been good and done right for one person to ruin the name of all the good officers out here. Justice for George Floyd. Justice for George.
They don't even provide CPR or aid to him. They continue to kneel on him. That is not okay. And if you as a police officer can watch that video and not think something's wrong, you are part of this problem. You are part of the problem that we face every single day trying to weed out the bad apples, because you don't admit when somebody did something wrong simply because you're blinded by the police officer family. George Floyd's family, I'm sorry. This was not okay. And I will do everything in my power to ensure that justice is served. I'm sorry.
All right, Tik-Tok, good morning. Mike Honcho here. Got to go quick because I got a lot to say. This whole George Floyd incident, yeah, it was murder. What those officers did was wrong. It was illegal, and I hope that they are punished accordingly. I'm glad they were fired. I hope they get charged accordingly to the crime, because that's what needs to happen. These guys that wear badges that are bad dudes that we don't like, that we hate more than you, we want them gone. They need to be gone. They do not deserve to be in this profession, and it pisses me off that there are some people saying, wait, we need to hear the whole story. BS. We don't need to hear nothing. Nowhere in defensive tactics training are you learn to put your knee across somebody's neck for 9 minutes while they're screaming for help. If you have that thought and mentality, get the hell out of the field right now. Not all cops are bad, but you're making us look bad. Tik-Tok, guys, be safe, be careful. I love you all. I'll see you next time.
I've been a cop for 23 years. And watching the video of Mr. Floyd being pinned to the ground was one of the worst things I've seen. His fellow officers stood there. They did nothing. Y'all took an oath. The same oath that 800,000 of us have taken to serve and protect our communities. Officers like this tarnish the badge. They tarnish the oath. We have to go out here and work harder to repair those relationships with our communities across the entire U.S. because it doesn't just affect one community. It affects all of them. I hope y'all are charged accordingly. To the Floyd family, I am sorry for your loss. And to my Blue family, we can't let this happen anymore.
So I got a chance to watch this video of George Floyd being murdered on the streets of Minnesota. Yeah, murdered. And we have an obligation as good officers to speak out against the bad. We have an obligation, and we owe it to the public and to the other officers in this country that are out here actually trying to do good, actually trying to protect and serve with honor. And if you stay quiet and don't speak out against it because you're fear of judgment, you're complicit in the behavior, the disgusting behavior. And this video is, if you haven't seen it, and I'm sure most people haven't now, it's disgusting. And the officer that stood by and just watched and let it happen, you're just as guilty, because you also have an obligation to protect that individual that you're arresting. It's time that we take these bad officers and speak out against them and start holding them accountable and hold them to the same laws that we expect citizens to abide by. They're not above it, and it's time that good officers start speaking out and stopping it.
I hope my law enforcement family doesn't take this the wrong way. My take on this is very simple. The man was murdered. Nowhere in mechanics of arrest are we ever taught to put our knees onto somebody's neck/throat area, especially for that long. And the 3 officers standing around watching that happen, y'all are at fault too. Y'all could have told the man, get off him, he can't breathe. I mean, you're hearing him say it, but then you allow it to just continue. Whatever happens to those officers happens. It should have never gone that way. Ever. Rest in peace, George Floyd. For real.
I come to you today angry. I come to you upset. George Floyd did not deserve to die in such a way. No black man deserves to die pleading to someone else to give him his last breath, to give him another breath. And for that to be taken for granted, the authority that we have as officers, for us to think that it's okay to put a knee in somebody's neck, especially a black man who's defenseless. He's outnumbered. He's not a harm. He's not a threat. A knee in his neck just goes to show how twisted our society really is. And it hurts me down to my core that we have officers like this around this nation. So if you are an officer of color, I beg of you to keep the peace. And no matter what those people or anybody throw at you, keep the peace and do our part.
Let's talk things that happen in Minneapolis, cop standpoint, right? I am disgusted with the things that happened in Minneapolis. Period, point blank. Things could have went way different. At the end of the day, let's talk facts. The guy is on the ground. He's laying on his stomach. He have handcuffs on. It's 4 of y'all, 1 of him. 4 of y'all, 1 of him. Who has control of the situation? It's not much one person could do against 4 people. Now let's get deeper, right? As an officer, you are a first responder, right? So if in the midst of you trying to gain compliance, someone is hurt, you have to render aid. So somebody's saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. You don't think to yourself and say, oh my gosh, this guy can't breathe. He might die. Let me render aid, right? Another point, officers, other officers, if you're going to be an officer that's going to stand there and not help when things go wrong, come on, like you don't see that? That's the reason I got behind this badge, right? Because I want them officers that's afraid to step up, I want to be the one to step up. If I see wrong happening, wrong is not happening in my presence, right? I'm going to check it. And that's period.
You know, it really sucks that it's come to this. Like, it sucks that it had to get here for our voice to be heard just a little bit. And I say just a little bit because a change still has not happened. And until a change happens in the right places, y'all gonna see more of this. Just being honest. And I know a lot of people have their different viewpoints. I respect them. But all I can say is that when you get a chance, when you get a moment, pray for change. I love you.